Some disasters leave ruins, others leave silence. Cities collapse, empires fall, civilizations disappear. But even after that destruction, something usually remains. Broken structures, fragments of history, records that tell us what once existed. Aleph-1 leaves none of that, because Aleph-1 doesn't destroy things, it erases them.
Cities are losing power, receiving evacuation alerts from multiple continents. The anomalies are accelerating. It's already inside the system. If this thing reaches the surface...
Entity designation.
Records are starting to corrupt. Personal files are disappearing from the database. Entire research teams are missing. The logs, I spoke to them this morning. The sky above the observatory has gone completely dark. It's here. If you're hearing this transmission, do not attempt to study this phenomenon. Do not approach it. Do not. It's entering the atmosphere.
What you just heard was one of the last surviving recordings from a civilization that encountered Aleph-1. At first, nothing seems unusual, just ordinary life, markets opening, transit systems running. It was just a normal day. Then the sensors start reporting resonance levels that shouldn't exist. Systems begin failing, cities start disappearing from the map, and within hours or minutes, the entire civilization is gone. Not destroyed, gone. No ruins, no survivors, not even evidence that anything was ever there. You see, Aleph-1 doesn't behave like the other threats we've seen in Wuthering Waves. It doesn't conquer, it doesn't devastate, it erases. Entire histories can vanish without leaving a trace, and if something is erased completely enough, there isn't even anyone left to remember it existed. That's what makes Aleph-1 so terrifying. Not the destruction, but the silence that comes after it. Lahai-Roi doesn't just raise the difficulty in Wuthering Waves, it changes the scale of the story. Before this, Rover's journey felt personal. You wake up in an unfamiliar world, trying to understand Solaris-3 and protect the people around you. But standing against something like Aleph-1 makes you question whether Rover truly understands what he's carrying. Because if a force like this can exist in Solaris-3, then the world is far larger and far less certain than we first believed. When the story first began in Jinzhou, everything felt close. Protect the city, help its people, piece together fragments of a forgotten past. Even when the mysteries grew, they still felt manageable. Then when we moved on to Renacida, it was personal in a different way. Its conflicts were tied to its history and its people. The stakes were higher, but they were still grounded in one region. You always knew what you were fighting for. Lahai-Roi changes that. It introduces something so overwhelming that previous Threnodians suddenly feel small by comparison. Because Aleph-1 doesn't just threaten life, it threatens continuity itself. And if someone can be removed so completely that even memory disappears, then what else might exist in the vast world of Wuthering Waves? Aleph-1 first appears during Act 1 of Lahai-Roi's main quest, but its introduction doesn't feel like a traditional boss encounter. There's no arena, no clear moment where the fight begins. Instead, the encounter happens during a transition toward Lahai-Roi. While traveling through a spatial passage, Rover is suddenly pulled into a strange, unstable realm. The environment begins to distort, the visuals fracture, space itself feels like it's breaking apart, and it quickly becomes clear that this isn't a normal battlefield. The moment isn't framed like a fair confrontation. It feels more like Rover has stumbled into something far larger than himself, an overwhelming presence whose existence alone destabilizes the space around it. Aleph-1 manifests through the void and immediately targets Rover's frequency. And this isn't just damage in a gameplay sense, it's existence. Rover isn't simply losing health, he's on the verge of being erased from the world entirely. If the process completes, there may not even be a memory left behind. Before that erasure finishes, someone intervenes. Rover is suddenly pulled out of the void by a mysterious girl who we later come to know as Amith. The moment ends as abruptly as it began. Afterward, the story continues in Lahai-Roi. New characters appear, new institutions tied to research and expansion begin to take center stage. On the surface, the narrative shifts back toward exploration, but that encounter lingers, because Aleph-1 isn't just another anomaly. It's identified as the Threnodian of the Void, something tied to forces far beyond the regional disasters we've faced before. While looking deeper into it, I found something that made everything click. Aleph-1's main theme is called nihility and causality. At first, those sound like heavy philosophical terms, but they describe exactly what Aleph-1 represents. This isn't destruction in the traditional sense, it's absence. When Aleph-1 interacts with frequency, it doesn't scar reality. It removes parts of it entirely. If someone is erased completely enough, there are no ruins left behind. No records, no mourning. It's as if they were never part of Solaris 3 at all. And that's where the second concept begins to matter. Causality. The chain of cause and effect that defines the world. Every disaster we've seen before had an origin, a mistake, a past event, something that led to the catastrophe. But if both memory and cause disappear, that chain breaks. History itself becomes unstable, which means that the first encounter with Aleph-1 isn't just dramatic. It introduces a completely new scale of threat, one where existence isn't guaranteed, and even the logic of the world can be undone. The name Aleph carries real-world meaning. In mathematics, George Cantor used this Hebrew letter to describe different sizes of infinity. Most people think infinity is singular. Cantor showed that there are levels to it. Aleph-0 represents countable infinity, like natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on. It never ends, but it can be listed in order. Aleph-1 represents the next cardinal level beyond that, a larger type of infinity that surpasses countable sets. Not all infinities are equal, some are fundamentally greater. The word Aleph also comes from Hebrew, where it is the first letter of the alphabet. In certain traditions, it symbolizes origin or unity. George Louis Borges even wrote a short story titled The Aleph, where a single point contains all other points simultaneously. When you put these meanings together, Aleph-1 suggests scale, infinity, origin, and totality. It isn't just a powerful name, it implies something operating beyond normal limits, defined by scale itself. Now, consider the Exostrider, also known as Balder, a mechanized unit designed to combat destructive Threnodians like Aleph-1. From what we know, it was created by Rover's homeland civilization, a spacefaring society responsible for deploying Exostriders and Sentinels to defend Solaris 3, possibly other planets as well. The civilization sent Rover to find a solution to the lament. They also created the communication satellite that was later swallowed by Aleph-1. After pleading to return home, Rover was cut off. Despite that, Rover continues forward, sacrificing previous versions of himself so that new iterations can keep searching for a solution. If he succeeds, he saves the world and may return home. If he fails, everything we've experienced could vanish. With that in mind, Aleph-1 becomes Rover's greatest obstacle. It doesn't overpower through brute strength, it removes history and everything built upon it. It's honestly kind of mind-boggling. Nearly 2 years into the story, and only now are we being introduced to what might be the most dangerous Threnodian yet. What makes it even more interesting is I talked about this in one of my last few videos, that each region's theme seems to be reflected in its own Threnodian. They don't just exist as random threats, they feel like direct oppositions to the ideals of the people living there. So, when you think about it, the pattern feels intentional. The more humanity pushes forward, the more ambitious we become, the more we try to be brave, to challenge limits, to defy the natural order, the more powerful the Threnodian that rises to confront us. Almost like the world itself is trying to remind us where our place really is. The final confrontation may not be about strength alone. Preparation could matter more than force. Community theory suggests Aleph-1 targets memory and identity. If so, anchoring existence to people and places might limit its reach. If memories persist, Erasure loses some of its power. Another theory involves Rover's multiple iterations. Since he repeatedly resets, some believe past and future versions may still exist somewhere within the system of Solaris 3. In a final battle, these echoes could converge. There's also the idea of world resonance. The regions Rover has explored and the people he has helped may contribute to a collective resistance, not through raw power but through persistence. Technology may play a role as well. Advanced mobility systems or stabilization devices could help counter localized erasure long enough to strike back. Groups like the Black Shores might assist through analysis rather than direct combat, identifying patterns or weaknesses. But the simplest possibility is containment. Victory might not require complete destruction of Aleph-1, only stopping its spread and preserving what remains. In the end, the conflict may not be about proving who is stronger, it may be about proving that memory and connection can endure. So, if that is the only solution that Rover has, then Ameth is as good as gone. But, for now, we wait. Fractidus still looms in Lahai-Roi, and with the recent release of the Luke Herschen story, there's still more to that. That's another thread entirely, and what they're planning to do with Lahai-Roi and the Threnodian. But, anyways, thank you for watching this analysis on Aleph-1. It stands apart from the Threnodians we've faced so far. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what you'd like me to cover next. I'll be uploading a Lahai-Roi recap soon. My name is KlemenTime. Be safe and stay tuned.
There is hope. After all, we just need to find it. We need to. Our survival